Hold it right there. Whatever you do, don't click off this video. But first of all, if you've got kids and they're awake, go spend some time with them. If the bands are active, get on the air. If neither of them are the case, then let's begin by saying, hi, my name's John, amateur radio call sign M7CPT. Welcome to Amateur Radio on the Air. Is YouTube killing ham radio? According to Hayden of Ham Radio DX, who released a video, I'll place a link in the corner for you for that. Go and watch it. It's quite entertaining. This is my response to his video. And first of all, he stated that both himself and Callum, the DX commander, had noticed a reduction in the number of returning views and new subscribers. This is not YouTube's fault. This is a result of the end of lockdown. People are going back to work. They have less time for YouTube, less time to spend looking for new content to watch. Is that the fault of YouTube? I don't think so. It's one of them things, it is what it is. We had a major boost to viewers during lockdown. My channel started during lockdown. I wouldn't have the subscribers I've got if it wasn't for lockdown. Another accusation he made against YouTube was that YouTube is not promoting ham radio as a hobby or for educational purposes or anything like that. He says the blame lays squarely with YouTube. No, it doesn't. YouTube is a business that's involved with the visual media, like your television. That business is paid for by the advertisers. With YouTube, yes, they also take a cut of donations to channels as well. That's business. YouTube are not bothered about what they're promoting as long as people watch it. What YouTube want is people to spend more time on YouTube. The more time people spend on it, the more adverts they can throw at them and the more revenue they can bring in. It's that simple. Videos that are similar to what a viewer is already watching will be pushed towards that viewer, will be promoted to that viewer. If a viewer likes watching videos of cats, you may get occasional videos thrown up towards them of dogs doing similar things. You may get animals in general doing silly things, or even videos where people have overdubbed the animal's movements using their own voice. So where does the fault actually lie? Is it with challenge videos? Challenge videos, everyone loves a challenge. Ham radio, for those that are up to it, has many challenges. An entry-level license nowadays, easy enough to get. Sure, there's a test, but it's a fairly simple test compared to what it used to be. In the 70s, 80s and 90s, you had to learn Morse code. You had to have a minimum of 15 words per minute. I know my brother failed on that one, but he passed everything else. Morse code is no longer a requirement. In the UK, it's taught in the practicals, but there's no test. It's not part of the test. During lockdown, they had to put all the practicals on hold, but they were still putting people through the tests. Where does the fault actually lie? A famous president, I can't remember which one, said something that does actually apply to this situation. The buck stops here. With the YouTube creators, sure, we're creating content that appeals to those that are in ham radio. But what about those that currently have no interest in it? Speak to someone who doesn't know anything about ham radio. Sooner or later, they'll say, how's that relevant in today's society? With smartphones, internet, you speak to people all over the world. No interference, no nothing, no problems. Really? What's the relevance of a mobile phone in ham radio? Mobile phones wouldn't exist but for ham radio. Ham radio developed repeaters. Mobile phones use cell towers as repeaters. Full duplex repeaters. That's ham radio technology. The internet started in America, if I remember correctly, with the military developing it from what was around at the time for civilian use. These items came off a computer that was used in the 90s. These are BNC connectors. That are used in ham radio. Ham radio developed network protocols so that one computer can talk to another. We still use these for the antennas. How is ham radio relevant to today's kids? Everything today's kids do would not exist if it wasn't for ham radio. Think about that. Temporary offline. does vintage computer repairs. He still introduces himself as a ham radio operator while he's actually doing the repairs. You want to promote the hobby? Make it relevant to the youth. Find out what they're interested in. Find out how ham radio has affected that particular area and tell them that. Ham radio, sure, for most of us it's a hobby, but it is also a service. In emergency situations, ham radio is there to step in and help out. The British licence conditions for all the licences state that emergency service providers can use the station just by asking. If they don't know how to use the ham radio, they can ask the operator to use it on their behalf. They can even be cryptic about what information is passed, so that only the person receiving the message understands it. This is something a ham radio operator is not actually allowed to do unless being instructed to do so by an emergency service provider. We are still not allowed to encrypt a signal. We're not allowed to encode it, but we can make it difficult for people to understand if an emergency service requires it. We use both analog and digital systems. Ham radio has the understanding to know what band is going to be open for a particular day. What sort of range you're going to get according to the amount of power in your transmitter. How much you're going to be able to receive. Ham radio is currently working on ways of making that reception far better. FT8, for example, can hear signals in the noise down to a minus 30 dB. And they're trying to push that further. Sure, FT8 and FT4 are only fixed messages. JS8 call, on the other hand, isn't fixed, but it can still pick up messages at very low signals. And yes, text messages, fine. JS8 call is just a modern version of Morse code that can hear better. The amount of devices that use Bluetooth increase daily. Bluetooth is a radio signal. Some mobile phones can be charged wirelessly. There's a kit you can get to charge a mobile phone from other radio signals in the air. That's ham radio. So ask yourself, content creators, what does ham radio have to offer today's generation, or even tomorrow's? Get that message out. And one final thing, the sun is getting active. Ham radio operators keep an eye on the sun because it tells them when the HF bands are going to open. Think about these things. Ask yourself, is ham radio merely a hobby? Is it merely a service? Or is it an essential to the future? And remember, YouTube content creators, the blame lies with us. If we are not making the information relevant to today's children, tomorrow's children won't care either. Sure, we can do reviews on radios and antennas and all that lot. That's only of interest to other hams once they're into the hobby. Think about the person that's not in the hobby. Send some videos occasionally their way. Compare your mobile phones with radios. Compare your computer to data transfer across radios. There's also some networks that work by linking old internet routers together to pass voices across, separate from the internet. Get that content out there. Bring people to your channel that have never looked into ham radio and what it means. Show them some of the knowledge that's available, and above all, have fun doing it. And with all that being said, I hope you've enjoyed the video, found it informative, which leaves me just one thing to say. Catch you on the air.